Okay, good. So here I want to prepare you against one of the toughest defenses against e4, and it's one of the you can try especially in club play. So if you're playing this against the Sicilian Najdorf, one of the challenges, what do you play? And I think the Sicilian Najdorf, a position which arises after these initial moves, e4, here, a6, this beginning position. Black somehow gets into this scenario where he's got these two central pawns for one white one, and in exchange, white gets to get his pieces quicker into action. So your main challenge is that in the short term, white is quick to get his pieces into the game, but in the long run, these two pawns in the center tend to be quite a nuisance for white because eventually they manage to chase white pieces away from the center. And in the end games that result in these positions, they usually favor black. So if you're going to get anything in, it has to be quite early and you have to be quite aggressive in your approach. And I don't think it gets more aggressive than bishop g5, which is what I recommend you must play. You develop this bishop from c1, and your plan is to quickly play queen to d2 or to f3 and castle long. And this usually applies in most Sicilian positions that if you really want to go for the win, you have to castle queenside. So after bishop g5, e6 is the most common move. f4. This move is very useful later on, especially. You could want to play f5 to attack. You would want to play e5 to attack. So these moves come in handy. You might as well do them now. Bishop e7 is the main idea, but I must say here there is another very dangerous opening, which used to be played in the old days, where players used to play queen d2 here, initiating what is called the poison pawn variation after queen b2, knight b3, and so on. And there is some fun and initiative in that, but I really just think it's best to avoid this labyrinth of theory. It's better to just play knight b3 in this position because you're not really worried about this check here. And this ending, I feel, is much more favorable to white. So I don't think that after knight b3, most people would not go for this if they're playing black in this opening they want to win. So bishop e7, queen f3, and after knight b d7, castles long, castles. And you pretty much have the same sort of opening that you or setup that you have if you play the main line with bishop e7. Another idea to consider here is that black sometimes plays knight c6, but I don't think this is anything to fear because after knight c6, bc6, e5, you can see that this is clearly better for white. So bishop e7, queen f3, queen c7, castles long, knight b d7, and bishop d3, b5. This is a typical setup. Some people have tried h6 here, but after bishop h4, g5, the trick is that after pawn takes, there's an intermediate move here with knight e5. After queen e2, they go knight g4. You can't take because the bishop obviously hangs, so you have to try push this knight to f3, and after take bishop g3. The king being in the center, there's not really a good safe space for the king to hide. I think this position is much more comfortable for white than it is for black. And you are gonna put some pressure on the f file, so making it very difficult to make progress or to castle. I think this is an acceptable position for white. And after b5, rook h1, again, white has the same challenges. If he wants to castle kingside, you could break in the center with e5 or f5, or you can play g4. There's a lot of ideas here which are much more easier to play for white than they are for black.